Today, on Be Something Wonderful, how love always makes the first move. I am your host, Tom Karen, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, welcome back. I heard from one of you that said, Tom, I'm not new to manifesting and Neville Goddard and all of these teachings, but I really want to talk to you about a situation I have. I've been in love with this woman for several years now. We've been together. But the last few years of the relationship, things have just changed. It seems like I'm giving a lot more. It just seems like I have to initiate things, and I just feel like it's uneven in that way. And it's now been so long. I fear that with this, if this goes on longer, the relationship will end. And I really still love her. I'm in love with her, and I think she's in love with me. So, so really what I wanted to talk to you about is just how do I get her to make the first move? I just feel like I'm doing everything. Well, guys, we're going to talk about this today and more. So I don't want to talk about everyone as you pushed out or the imagining you wish fulfilled and all that. We've covered that in other videos, and you can review those. What I really want to say today is that it doesn't matter how long this has been going on. It doesn't matter what the past is. But what really matters is that love always makes the first move. I want you to hear this. So you're saying, I want her to make the first move. I want her to change. Love makes the first move. When you move within with love, it will change everything. I promise you. Let's unpack this today like we never have before. So you're saying, what should I do? Right? I've lost so much time, and that it just feels so uneven that I have to keep giving and she doesn't give anything back. But you got to really, I just really want you to know that when you say that you fear that the relationship will end, well, fear creates reality. But even bigger than that, love is reality. It's ultimate reality. Both love and fear create reality, but love is ultimate reality. So fear is made up. Those unwanted realities are not the real reality. They're not the ultimate reality, right? So both love and fear create reality, but love is the only reality. Love is ultimate reality. And when you move in love, when you make that, love always makes the first move, then you create the reality that you want. It will change overnight, right? Allow love to make the first move. You're not allowing that love in, right? Remember, you can't be in fear and love at the same time. They're not the same, right? They're different realities. So you say you love her and you're in love with her, but you're in fear, and you can't possibly love when you're in fear. I really want to hit this today. And this is what in John, what the ancients said about God. We love him because he loved us, because he first loved us. Hear the lesson here. Hear what the ancients are saying. They're saying God showed us what love looks like. That's what love looks like. It's unconditional. And when you love, that moves everything. That creates your ideal reality. We love him because he first loved us. God showed us, Jesus showed us what the model for love, for unconditional love, right? So if you're going to just stay in fear and not move in love, then you're not in love at all. You're not in a state of love. You're in a state of fear, and they can't coexist together. Right? God showed us what love looks like, right? Love without attachments, love without inflated importance. All this importance that you think that she's not giving, right? It's one-sided. You want her to make the first move, right? All of that's inflated. That's an attachment. You're desiring and needing and wanting something from fear. And fear is fear. Fear is not love. Fear is lack. But here's the good news. Love is the only reality. Love's ultimate reality. The fear, the wanting, the needing, the craving for things to change are made up. Those are the illusions. Love is what's real. And when you move in love, when you allow love to make the first move within you, then you move to a loving reality. You move to the ultimate reality of love. That's big. So choose what you want and who you desire to be and love it, right? Surrender to your wish fulfilled. Choose that that you're both giving and receiving, right? And that there is no imbalance, right? It can't be when you're in a state of love. It's impossible. Love is harmony, right? Love is ultimate reality. Love is that energy that creates worlds. Look at nature. It's all in harmony. Otherwise, the stars and the planets would be falling out of the sky. It's all perfectly balanced and in harmony, right? It's your inner state that's out of harmony with that love. Do you hear that? That's all that's going on here. Once you move with love, allow love to make the first move. It always does. God taught us that. Then you're in sync and you're with harmony with that ultimate reality, right? Love chooses. Fear wants and needs. Do you hear this? You say you love her and you're in love, but you're not. You're in fear. Because if you want and need something to change, you're in fear. You're not in love, right? Love lets go. Fear holds on. You're holding on. You're holding on to this idea that she needs to make the first move, right? A Course in Miracles says this: nothing and everything cannot coexist. Hear this. This is big. Love is everything. Fear is nothing. Do you hear this? That ultimate reality is everything. All that other stuff cannot exist when you turn your awareness from it. It's only your belief that keeps it alive. There's only your belief that keeps it a reality. When you retrieve your belief from that it's one-sided, that she doesn't make the first move, that she doesn't give, that reality can no longer exist. You're no longer giving it your light or your love, which is ultimate reality. You hear this, right? Love is everything. Fear is nothing. All fear is a feeling that you are separated from your source. That energy that creates world, that energy that you're made of. You're not separated from God ever, but you can think you are. And that's what fear is. Fear is simply fearing that you're not going to get what you want or you're going to get what you don't want. And that is a state of lack, and that's the illusion. Because ultimate reality is love. That's big. So, and remember in the prodigal son, I've talked about the prodigal in several videos. You can search and browse for those. But today I want to talk about this part when the prodigal goes out and blows all of his inheritance. He asks his father for his inheritance. He goes and blows it in the material world, in the world of sense, and then comes back, right, to the father. And as the father saw him a long way off, the father went running to him and hugged him and kissed him and showed him compassion, right? God turns to you when you turn to God, when you turn to him. When you turn to love, love turns to you, right? That's what the prodigal son taught us, right? Didn't matter how long the son was away from love or from that great reality of God or that ultimate reality, right? Because you're never away. You can only think you are. It doesn't matter how long you think you were separated. When you turn to that reality, when you turn to that love, when you turn to God, God comes running to you with compassion. God doesn't judge you for what you created before or what you chose before. It's totally new and it's unchanging. That love never changes, right? And he arose, and this is what it says in Scripture in Luke 15:20. And he arose and came to his father. So as you rise in consciousness, as you allow love to make the first move, but when he was still a long way off, or a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion. In other words, love doesn't judge. Love doesn't condemn or reject, right? And ran and fell on his neck, meaning he embraced him. This is from King James, and kissed him. Wow, that's love. We love him because he first loved us. We love him because when we turn to that love, God comes running to us, right? When you turn to your wish fulfilled comes running to you. Do you hear this? When you imagine your wish fulfilled, when you imagine what you really want, and stop taking and pull your attention, pull your awareness, pull your light, your consciousness, retrieve it from what you don't want. That dissolves, and what you want is what you create. You start living in the fulfillment that you are, right? So love doesn't judge or condemn. You are not judging or condemning your current unwanted conditions. You accept with compassion and call forth your new possibility. That's what the prodigal son's, that lesson's telling us. Instead of judging your 3D conditions, judging her, condemning her for not making the first move, for you thinking that you're always having to give and give and give. Instead, don't judge or condemn your unwanted reality or those unwanted conditions. Accept them with compassion, like God did with the prodigal. He didn't say, hey, no, you took your inheritance, you made your bed, you live in it, right? He didn't say any of that. He went running to him from a long way off with compassion, with love. So those unwanted conditions, embrace them. But then choose again. Call forth your new reality. Call forth that new possibility, that new potential. That you're in a perfect relationship. It's perfect, and it's perfect harmony. It's perfectly balanced, right? So let's hit this a little bit more. God does not know non-fulfillment, right? God does not know sin. In other words, it doesn't know you are not identifying what you wish fulfilled. We saw that from the prodigal. God does not know fear and lack. God only knows love. God is love. That's all God knows. God doesn't know any of that stuff that you're talking about with your partner, right? That she's not giving you what you want. As you condemn her for not acting first, for not making the first move. God knows nothing of that. Here in the prodigal son in Luke 15, 21, 22. So as the son, as the father hugged and kissed the son, here's what the son says to the father: Father, I have sinned against heaven. Right? In other words, against that I amness, against who you really are. You didn't see who you really are. You weren't identifying with your ideal, right? With your wish fulfilled, right? And in your sight, so I've sinned against heaven in your sight, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, bring out the best robe, put it on him, put a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet. Hear this. In other words, God didn't even recognize that sin, did not even respond to it, didn't even hear him. God does not forgive because God doesn't condemn, meaning there's nothing to forgive. God doesn't condemn you in the first place, right? And doesn't even see that you haven't identified with your ideal. Only gives you the robe, the ring, the completion. Right? That fulfillment gives you the fulfillment that has been yours all along, your wish fulfilled, right? Wow, what a lesson, right? Wow, what a lesson. So no matter how long you've been away, right? Just as the prodigal has been away, God or ultimate reality or love or fulfillment never changes. You're always going to return to that same love, right? And fulfillment in thought, beliefs, assumptions contrary to your wish fulfilled. So no matter how long you've been away, when we say that the prodigal son's been away, what does that really mean? It means in thoughts, beliefs, assumptions contrary to your wish fulfilled, contrary to the love of which you are made and from where you come. Do you see that? Just in thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions, you can be away, but you're never really separated from God or who you really are. You can only believe you are. You can only assume you are, right? You can only think you are, but you're always fulfilled. And it never changed, right? Time is irrelevant when we're talking about infinity and eternity. Think about this. We're talking about infinity. How big can you get? How big and vast can when we talk about infinity and eternity? And you're talking about a few years in light of time's irrelevant. Linear time is meaningless in light of this eternity, in light of this infinity. When you turn your attention to what you want with love, reality comes running to you. God comes running to you. Your wish fulfilled comes running to you. Your ideal reality comes running to you. In other words, you move to that reality in that instant, right? So when you enter the room, in other words, the mansion, when in Scripture it says, Jesus says about in God's house or in the kingdom there are many mansions. Right? This is what we're talking about, many states of consciousness. But when you enter the room of what you do want, the state of consciousness, the mansion, in other words, the state of being of what you do want, and turn the light on, and it doesn't matter how long you have been thinking and behaving in non-fulfillment. So when you enter the room, the mansion or that state of consciousness of what you do want, it doesn't matter. Linear time's irrelevant how long you've been away thinking and believing in non-fulfillment, right? Away in another state of consciousness, away in thoughts that weren't aligned with your wish fulfilled. Remember, when you turn the light on in a darkened room, it doesn't matter how long that room, it's like you going into a room and turning the light on and saying to someone, I wonder how long that room has been in the dark. It doesn't matter. Why? Because you turned on the light. All that matters is the room is light now. The light's on now. That's all that ever matters, right? That's big. Now is the accepted time. Behold, now is the day of salvation from Corinthians, right? In Scripture, right? That really is how love always makes the first move. I am your host, Tom Caron, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of Higher Consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification button, like and share our videos. Share the channel with your friends, families, co-workers, everybody. That's really is how we grow the channel and get the message out. You can follow us on Facebook at Be Something Wonderful. There's a group now called the Be Something Wonderful Ambassadors. Feel free to join that. It's growing every day. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Tom Caron, or visit our website anytime at tomcaron.com or besomethingwonderful.com. With great love, with great light, and infinite gratitude, this is Tom. See you soon.